I'm Alex.
And I'm Shane.
And this is the RPM podcast.
And welcome back. And we've got an RPM roundup for you today. And we're going to be talking about the McLaren reveal their new livery for the Monaco Grand Prix. We couldn't resist a chat about the new livery. It was it was hyped up so much. And we'll talk about the announcement and how everything led up to it. And we've kind of held off, haven't we, talking about our actual views and opinions on the striking new livery for the Monaco Grand Prix. So here we are, and we're just going to dive into a chat. So we're going to talk about the launch itself, our reaction, and how everything kind of materialized around the whole build-up. So without any further ado, let's move on.
Now, before we had the announcement itself, there was the now ritualistic announcement of the announcement, which is what we get when things happen in Formula One. It all helped to build a little bit of hype and excitement for what it was going to be. There were all sorts of utterly bizarre rumors flying about. We get to have our own little silly season. We don't really have silly season in F1, actually. I feel like it's always silly. It's always incredibly silly.
Yep.
And any excuse to come up with random things. That never really goes away. And that's kind of what we got here as well. They announced, lots of journalists came out and with photos of them, presumably, I think it was at the McLaren Technology Centre. They had seen something very exciting, but they can't tell us what it is yet. And all we get is a date. Okay, well, we'll just wait till then. And it turned out that they are finally reuniting with Gulf. They were originally sponsored by Gulf in the early 1970s, McLaren. And outside Formula One, the Gulf racing livery has been all over the motorsport world, mainly known for GT racing, endurance racing. It's quite an iconic look. And it's back. And it's going to be on the McLaren car for the Monaco Grand Prix. At first, that made a lot of the build-up and the hype seem like it deflated a little bit.
Yeah.
But I still feel like this is actually a really cool announcement, and a fair play to McLaren for making a big deal out of it, because they're trying to big themselves up. They're trying to present themselves as potential future title contenders, and you've got to make a bit of noise about yourself. And if there's anybody in the business who knows how to promote themselves, I'd say it's Zach Brown.
Yes, and he's done a good job. And like you said, leading up to that announcement, there was loads of hype. I think the hashtag was bold is back or bold is something. And I try to steer away from F1 hype because, and I hate to say this, I don't know if you feel the same, but when the announcement came and I saw the videos and I saw the photos, I thought, okay, that's cool. I was just a little bit underwhelmed originally. Originally, I was underwhelmed because it was hyped up to be such a huge event. As time's gone by, obviously we're recording this, I think it's Sunday today. And I think it's Monday today, actually. That's how
today.
That's how far away I am. It was a big announcement, don't get me wrong, and I quite like it, but it was just hyped up so much. The initial reaction for me was a little bit, oh, okay, that's cool, but is that it? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, there was talk of it being this big change or this potential. There was talks of something to do with McLaren entering Formula E, and it went all sorts of strange places. But no, it's fun to watch some mental gymnastics, but the score was ultimately 0-0-0 for everybody, I'm afraid, because I don't think anybody guessed anything even remotely like this. I still think it's a cool announcement, and but it was amusing to see that big build-up and everything that surrounded it. And we've been thinking about having a little chat about this in a larger topic in the future, so keep an eye out for that special episode we're thinking of doing about hype in Formula One. But that's in the pipeline.
That's definitely in the works. Not today.
Now, this release video then that came out with it, what did you make of it?
I quite enjoyed it. Now, I'm very easily pleased when it comes to like launch videos. I liked a couple of the official livery launches of the year, whereas you didn't. You felt they were a little bit overcasted, overdramatic. You're very in tune with what makes a good presentation. Well, we've got different opinions. So I watched the McLaren one and I thought, very dramatic, very cinematic, very dark, very serious, almost James Bond-esque. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it did. I thought it worked quite well. I don't know what else to say about it. It was 2 minutes and 20 seconds, so it was quite a short video, so it's quite easy to keep everyone engaged the whole length of time. I don't like really long announcement videos which stretch to like 10, 15 minutes because I get bored after the first 3 or 4. But I thought it was really good. And if anyone hasn't watched it, I'd suggest going and watching it because actually, yeah, it's quite short, and I think it is well put together.
Yeah, it's very, very high production quality. It looks and sounds very, very good. We get a bit of acting from Lando Norris. I think it's fair to call it acting. It's quite hard to take him seriously in that way, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Not because I don't respect him as a driver or anything like that. I mean, obviously he's fantastic, but he's Lando. Like he's like this quite he's this quite sort of light-hearted kind of guy. And
he prides himself on being quite light-hearted and jolly, and
he's a bit
smiley.
of a joker, and then all of a sudden he's being really dramatic, and it just feels wrong. But of course there was one thing. Well, I would hate to call him a thing. There was one person missing entirely from this video, and that's Daniel Ricciardo. It is just Lando. It's interesting that he's not in the video. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. This is Lando's 3rd season in Formula One. And he's now something of an institution in that team. He's one of the most followed drivers online. He started Team Quadrant, which is a sort of gaming racing.
It's kind of like a gaming
channel.
Community, esport kind of. He's like building that kind of empire. So he's kind of spread out. So yeah, Team Quadrant is a gaming community, reaction community. He's got quite a few big YouTubers in that community as well. So they're well followed online. Like you said, he's got a huge following online. And I think it delves into the esport realms as well, which we might see later on in the year when we have that yearly F1 esports come up.
Yeah, the guy's 21 years old and is already quite the icon for a lot of people. So he's a McLaren man, whereas Daniel Ricciardo is well liked, and I'm still absolutely loving that he's driving for the team. But his status as a McLaren man is not yet established.
No,
and he's not excluded entirely because obviously he's in the promotional photos. Talk more about those in a moment, but maybe when putting this whole video together, it was a case of not wanting to push Ricciardo into that role, let him ease into it. You know, Lando is a recognizable part of the overall McLaren brand, if you like. So it didn't feel like I wasn't concerned that Ricciardo wasn't in it. You know, it didn't feel like he'd been snubbed.
No, I wasn't, to be fair. I mean, I noticed that it was just Lando throughout the whole thing. But like you said, Lando's been in McLaren now for 3 years. Daniel has been in the McLaren for arguably 3 months at the time of recording. And he hasn't had much, I wouldn't say much success, because success is hard to measure, especially when you're at the start of a new season. But he's had no groundbreaking success. So he's not scored any podiums, which isn't a bad thing. He's still getting used to the car. I think after a couple of podiums, if Daniel achieves them, he'll start being recognised as that McLaren driver. He'll start being recognised as that brand icon when he's standing on the podium. I also thought this whole livery was built around Monaco and the Monaco Grand Prix. Now, Daniel's had a fair bit of success around Monaco, and equally, you could say he's had a fair bit of controversy as well. He's won races and lost races at this Grand Prix. So there's those famous photos of him in Red Bull falling into the pool, holding the trophy. Like everyone loved it when Daniel won the Monaco Grand Prix. Would it have been too difficult to try and move that image? If they'd put him in the video, would people be thinking about Red Bull a little bit, because that's where Daniel's kind of recognised around Monaco? He's done quite well there before. I don't know. Whereas Lando hasn't had any success around Monaco, so maybe it's easier to mould him into that shape. If you kind of get what I mean.
Yeah, maybe it might have been a little bit. It might have been a little bit crass to try and get Ricciardo in another team winning in Monaco in there, but I know what you mean. He's had some success at this track, but I don't feel like he was snubbed. I feel like it was just to do with the fact that Lando's so well established, and Ricciardo probably wanted to put times into other things. You know, he's probably wanted to focus more on his performance rather than trying to establish himself communications wise. You know, he wants to do his talking on the track, as they say. So that seemed like a good choice, really. I wasn't concerned that he wasn't in it. So I think the time has finally come. We're going to get on with it now and to actually talk about the livery. and what we think about it. So we got these images here. We obviously saw very clear what the car's going to look like. There's no ambiguity. It's all very well lit. They're not trying to hide anything. It's not like a launch reveal where they've like mysteriously covered up parts of the car or anything like that. What do we think then, Shane? What do you make of this historic livery now supplanted onto the MCL 35B for the Monaco Grand Prix?
I'm going to start with by saying it's growing on me. So I was already a massive fan of the McLaren livery. I thought it looked great. I thought it was striking. I thought it was bold, easily recognizable, looks good around the track. And I've seen a couple of different renders of this one-off livery, and the ones I'm looking at now is with the blue and orange background, the stripes, and then you've obviously got the blue and orange car. And it's key to remember that this is blue, because I've seen some which look a bit very pale or quite grey in some strange light. So I think Autosport published some photos, and they looked a bit grey. And I think those are the first photos I saw, and I thought, I'm not a massive fan of how that looks. But on reflection, I do like the blue. I love the orange. Couple of I'm not sure if they're different sponsors. I'm just noticing more sponsors on the car because maybe with the new livery they've put them in different places. So overall, I think the design is very good, and I like the color scheme as well. It's retro, which is, I do love retro liveries, and there's an argument to say that I would wish more cars would do retro liveries occasionally, just to experiment and see what they look like on modern Formula One cars. What about yourself?
To cover over the sort of similar points that you've made there, starting with the current main McLaren livery, I'm okay with it. I don't love it. I think it's all right.
Oh, okay.
The current McLaren livery, it's okay. It's fine. It's just
I mean, they've had better, no doubt.
Yeah, I like that they've had the bold colouring. They kind of went back to that classic orange. I think I preferred the original ones when they went back to it, though, when it was like full. They really went all out on the orange, and they had the coloured strips at the back and all the rest of it. I quite liked that. But this Golf livery is lovely. I really, really like this. And that colour, you mentioned it being quite pale in some of the images. In some images, it looks like that kind of very, very light grey that you get on the underside of sort of old World War II aircraft. Certainly on British aircraft, you get that sort of light grey, because it looks like what the sky looks like in the UK, which is very grey.
Yep.
So it really matches that colour just perfectly. So it does look a little bit like that, doesn't it? But in other images, you really get that really chalky light blue mixed with the bold orange of the original livery. In fact, it maybe is even more luminescent here than it is in the main livery.
Yeah.
Of course, it's just an iconic look. It's in sports cars in the 90s. Is where it's particularly notable. That they were with McLaren then in the 90s, I believe, and it's just been used all over motorsport, especially a lot of sports car racing. And yeah, it's so iconic. It's never looks dated ever. This livery always looks great in my opinion, and I'm so glad to see it. And honestly, I wish they'd keep it. Just keep that for the rest of the year. I think that looks great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would happily see that on track all year.
Okay, well, yeah, I want to see how it looks on track first. So I'll come back from work on Thursday and have a look at the practice sessions. And
I love the overalls and everything. It all looks fantastic.
I tell you what, they've fully committed, haven't they? So they've got team overalls, both drivers and the team themselves have got these like retro coloured overalls. They've got specially designed helmets, I believe, which they're going to auction off at the end of the weekend for charity. I've not seen those yet, but apparently they're going to look... Well, you can imagine what they look like. Both Lando and Daniel quite like designing their helmets. They've both got some of the best helmets on the grid. So I look forward to see what they come up with, or see what design they've kind of implemented on their own helmets, which would be really good.
I think that I think that out of all of the recent historic liveries that we've had the Ferrari one where they had the dark crimson. They've had a bit of an homage to that in their current livery this year.
Yeah.
We also had the Mercedes one where they, to be honest, nobody really remembers the livery because all they remember from that race is
the race.
Hamilton's pit stop and the Benny Hill theme playing in the background.
Yep.
But that was also a bit kind of, I wasn't really that wild about it. The full crimson Ferrari I thought was quite nice. I quite liked that one, but not amazing. This is clearly the best historic livery, one-off livery that's happened so far. So
yeah, without a doubt.
Well, the rules are, like a lot of things, the rules are quite strict about liveries as they were with helmets. It's only recently that drivers have been able to kind of do what they want with their helmets. It's so strange that it was as strict as it was for so long. What do you think, just very briefly to touch on this, what do you think about them relaxing the rules even more and allowing teams to do this sort of thing? Say they all get a chance to do it once per season, to have a one-off livery at some point. It's an opportunity for sponsors to get more involved, which is good for especially smaller teams who might benefit from some kind of, added deal. And it also gives something of extra interest to the fans. I know it might be a little controversial with some who see it being a little bit like, I think in NASCAR, they change liveries quite a lot. But I'm not necessarily saying we should allow them to change it as much as they like, but what do you think about them relaxing the rules on this and allowing teams to have more one-off liveries in a season?
I'm all for it, without a doubt. Once or twice a season, I can't see that doing the sport any damage whatsoever. In fact, it just builds hype around the cars. Most teams, I imagine, would do it around the home Grand Prix, which would be cool because the fans would love it. It would get the fans out to the track, and it wouldn't take anything away from the grid. If every car did it on the same race, I do think we might have a bit of a mix-up. It would be, the commentators sometimes...
Everyone just happens to do it on the same race, purely by accident. Everyone seems to have a big announcement coming for this week, and they're like going to announce something. What's everyone going to announce?
And they just turn up in silver cars, every single one of them. But no, I think I'm all up for like creativity, and we look forward to the start of every single year to see if any cars have changed their design, like livery-wise, from their previous year, and we're graced when they do, and we're a little bit let down when they don't because it's the same. But so we love it when they do, and to see McLaren do this, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's bring, not necessarily retro, bring different liveries into the sport once or twice a season because it will allow those sponsors and it will allow those fans to interact with the car. The teams will then sell special merchandise, which all I've seen over my Twitter feed for the last couple of days is that the McLaren guys have sold out of their limited edition merch. I'm sure they've cashed in very well.
Is it all sold out? All
fans. Of it? Yeah. Some of it was quite pricey as well.
I was thinking of buying a t-shirt. I'm obviously too late.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're too late to the party. They might have restocked, but I saw some people like screenshots saying it all sold out. So who knows? But yeah, absolutely.
More misinformation could be.
Or potentially. It is Twitter after all. So I assume because of your reaction, you're all for one-off livery changes as well.
Yeah, I'd be well up for it. I think that it'd be nice for everyone to get that chance to do it because as I understand it, they have to get approval as it currently stands. There has to be some kind of approval from Formula One and the FIA. Whether or not they'd ever say no, I don't really know. Don't know anything about the inner dealings of that or how likely or easy it is to get done. But there's no, as I understand it, there's no formal, you're allowed to do this kind of thing. You have to get approval. So if they were to offer each team once per season, you can have a one-off livery, I think we'd see some interesting things and be good promotion for all the teams and a bit of fun. Any sort of historic or iconic one-off liveries from days gone by stick out in your mind?
See, this is a difficult one. I am a massive fan of the old school. I say it's old school. It's not too old. It's the Vodafone McLaren Mercedes, the red rear wing with the silver, but it was a proper silver where you could see like reflections of the track.
Was that like a one-off one?
Oh, that wasn't a one-off one. I thought if you want, that was me wanting to see it come back. But no,
I would love to see them do that if they did a one-off proper
Vodafone
silver
McLaren
McLaren.
Yeah.
But they'd have to completely change all of their sponsors and get Vodafone on board. But
True. Just for one race, I'm sure they would. They would because it's for charity. As for one-off liveries, I mean, I've been watching the sport for 10 plus years, and nothing really sticks out, which is probably horrendous. And you're probably going to shoot me now. I'll hand the question back to you.
Yeah, I'm thinking what first comes to mind is the Star Wars Red Bull ones.
Okay.
Not because I liked them. I didn't necessarily like them.
They're quite recent.
But they're interesting at least. So it brings a little spice. Like they've done James Bond as well, where they had like the sort of tuxedo style racing suits. Yeah. Sometimes they have the cowboy boots when they go to
when they go to Austin.
Grand Prix.
Did they do
it's cool, I guess.
They did like a camo livery, didn't they? Not the black and white one in testing, but they did like a black,
livery,
like a black and maybe a dark blue, or a dark blue and a dark purple kind of like livery. I quite like that when Red Bull do mix up for pre-season testing. It's a shame they always
Red
revert
Bull have
back
done
to
it a
their.
lot. They've done it a lot, haven't they?
Yeah, and their car always looks amazing, and then they revert back to their default. And there's nothing wrong with their livery. It's almost iconic because it's been in the sport for so long.
It absolutely is.
It's a shame they don't stick with some of their testing liveries.
Yeah, I can only assume that it's something to do with making it difficult to see elements of the car. It is literal camouflage. It's meant to sort of hide elements from the car. I understand that's why they do it. I just wish they'd keep some of them because they look really good. Maybe put them on the AlphaTauri. I don't know. Give it a try. But
true.
Yeah, Red Bull have done it a lot. I'm trying to think who else has done it other than the other examples that we gave in recent years. Anyway, there's the 1000 Grand Prix one that Ferrari did. Mercedes had their historic one. Yeah, like
Haas hasn't been in the sport long enough. Yeah, true. I was just saying, Haas hasn't been in the sport long enough to have a historic livery.
No, I don't think they can quite claim that.
I liked their very first liveries, so maybe they should bring that back.
Yeah, they've had some cool liveries. I think Haas have had some nice understated liveries. I quite like them. But so overall, then you're still waiting. You're holding judgment until you see it on track. Yeah,
like you said, it's an iconic livery, and now I've got over the hype. I really enjoy it. I think it looks really smart, looks really nice, and hopefully it looks as good as it does in the pictures as it does on track. I look forward to seeing that car fly around the streets of Monaco and one of them getting a podium at least.
Well, now that we're here, we might as well talk a little bit about the upcoming Monaco Grand Prix. That is, at the time of recording, what is next. Yep. This is where we're going to see this livery on track. We have expressed in the past not exactly a love for the race in Monte Carlo. I think both of us enjoy the qualifying, but the race has never been particularly spectacular because it's just a bit of a war. I suppose a bit more of a war of attrition type race.
Yeah.
But you don't really see any battles per se because it's not a problem with the track. It's a problem with the cars, really, in that they are very big and very wide, and it just doesn't quite work. It's a cool circuit, but it just doesn't quite work for Formula One cars, and it's only got more awkward in time. And you end up with these rather bizarre situations where somebody can have, like Daniel Ricciardo, for example, having this terrible problem with his car where he loses quite a significant amount of power. But because there's just no room to get past him, that's just not really an inconvenience at all. Yeah, he's got to keep it together and fair play to him. I'm not saying that it's easy, but at almost any other track, that would be a pretty critical problem. And it almost doesn't quite feel right that such a critical issue could go almost unpunished because you can just park the bus. It's so hard to get past, and it, like I say, it only gets more difficult with time, and it gets more awkward with these cars. Anyway, what do you think we could be looking forward to for the upcoming Monaco Grand Prix? What are your thoughts?
I think it will be, like you said, I think it'll be interesting. The practice sessions I think would be really interesting because there's a lot of new drivers on the grid, and you got to remember we didn't go there last year. So any rookies on the grid last year haven't had that experience at all.
That's true.
So there's a lot of new drivers on the grid. And I don't want to say, and I think they'll struggle. It's Monaco. It bites back at every opportunity. We've seen Verstappen crash there quite a lot, to be honest. And he's rated quite highly in everyone's eyes. So if Max has struggled in there in the past, especially coming through Formula One, being quite a recent driver, then I reckon the new guys will. The top fight out between McLaren, if only, between Mercedes and Red Bull, again, will be interesting. It's not a power-driven circuit. And usually I'll turn around and say, so that puts the ball in Red Bull's court because, the Mercedes have got the stronger engine. But this year, they're so evenly matched. I think qualifying is going to be absolutely amazing. It's a shame that the race will probably be dictated from qualifying. But let's not forget that we've had 3 different race winners in the last 3 years, I believe. So in 2019, we had Lewis Hamilton. 2018, we had Daniel Ricciardo. And then I think it was Sebastian Vettel in 2017. So we might see not a new race winner, but a different race winner. Maybe we haven't had in the last 3 years. We've got Bottas, we've got Max Verstappen, and we've got Sergio Perez. All those 3 could win. and take that title for the first time, which I think would be really interesting. It's a battle of the strategies as well. And this year so far, we've seen Mercedes come out on top when it comes to strategies, and Red Bull drop the ball ever so slightly. Hopefully they pick up their game and can challenge. But that's all from me. I mean, it's Monaco. Anything could happen. If it rains, we're in for a treat.
I admire your enthusiasm and optimism for the race. I hope you're right. I hope that we do see something a bit different, and it's a good point as well that we didn't go there last year. So there is a still, there's a certain novelty to it for some people perhaps at this stage, and having not been there before, and it being a while since we saw a race in Monte Carlo. So yeah, we'll see who's capable of keeping it together around the track, because like you say, there's just absolutely zero room for error, and that alone can make the process of the race interesting. I think you got to go into it with the right attitude, I guess. You just got to go into it looking to enjoy yourself. That's sometimes the way that it goes, because not every race is going to quite play out in quite that same fashion. It is a war of attrition, like I said before, and you kind of have to really look into the actual process as just trying to get around the track itself, because just being fast around Monaco is difficult all by itself. And especially with modern cars, because they do tend to look very planted. When you watch older Grand Prix, those cars seem to dance that little bit more, and so look all the more precarious going around those streets, even though they're lighter. When you see them trying to battle,
and smaller, aren't they?
Yeah, it does add a certain something. It works the track in a different way, and it is more pronounced. And as a result of that, and also the prestige of Monaco, and it has a great history. And obviously, you don't need to go through the whole history. It is the race to watch, basically, for many people when they think about Formula One. You think, well, what is the big fancy race? And a lot of people will tell you Monaco. So it just has become a bit more awkward in recent years. And I don't want to see it get mired down and suffer from a failure to maybe adapt it if they can, if there's any possibility to do that. I know Lewis Hamilton has mentioned before about it would be interesting if they could change the circuit slightly. I have no idea how possible that is, but I'm a bit worried it might get a bit stuck in a rut as a race, and I hope you're right. I hope that we do see something good, because it will be good for the track. It's a bit of negativity surrounding it, and I know that I'm a part of that, because I don't have the most positive opinion of the race. I love the Saturday. I don't really have much love for the race itself.
Yeah, it's bad to say that a lot of people look forward to the Monaco Grand Prix. I, for one, and this sounds terrible, don't mind if I don't miss it. I don't watch it live, because it's one of those things I can just catch up on. And it might be one I don't watch live and just fast forward through, because it can be that little bit static at times. But saying that, if it is a little bit slow this year, it's the last year of this era of cars, and next year's cars are going to be designed to not necessarily complement the Monaco track, but complement following and overtaking, and really bringing back that racing pedigree we really want. So hopefully that brings a little bit more spark into Monaco. The cars will still be huge, don't get me wrong, but hopefully next year we'll have a really good race, and this year we'll just have a good race. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. Right, there we have it. Thank you very much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to leave a comment and let us know what you think about this new McLaren livery, or this temporary McLaren livery. Clearly, Alex and I are quite big fans, and from what I see on social media, everyone is quite receptive to it. Would you want to see it for the whole year, like Alex does? And let us know what previous liveries you would love to see come back. We're always interested. And at this time, we always reply to every single comment on YouTube. So let us know, and we'll get that conversation going. Like I said, if you are watching on YouTube, then please subscribe. If you're listening to us on a podcast app, then please give us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us and contact us at RacePerMinute on Twitter. Likewise with the comments. We're always on Twitter. We're always responding back to your tweets. That's where you can get involved with the post-race discussion tweets, where we ask you guys for questions, and then you can feature on the podcast. If you're not on Twitter, you can always email us at info@raceperminute.com, and we'll read out your email on the podcast. And if you really want to support the show, you can do by visiting patreon.com/raceperminute, where you can donate as little as £1 a month to help keep the show running. We take great pride in what we do here at RacePerMinute, and we've invested in the best audio quality we can at this time, and it doesn't come cheap. So any support would be greatly appreciated. And if you can't, a thumbs up or a subscription will do just fine. But thank you very much for listening, and we shall see you in the next one, which is the post-race discussion for the exciting Monaco Grand Prix.
Here's hoping. See you then.